Hi, Donald here with another tips and tricks. And this tips and tricks is on how to mark your anchor line so you know exactly how much or roughly how much anchor line you have out at any given time so that you can match your anchor line to the proper amount of anchor line depending on the depth of water. Now, there's a lot of different ways of anchoring or different there's a lot of different advice or different guidance on how long your anchor line should be. For a kayak, it should be 3 to 4 times the depth of the water. So if you're in 10 feet of water, your anchor line should be around 30 to 40 feet. Now, it also, the size of your kayak, the condition of the water, the wind, that kind of has factors. So if you're very calm, you're in a smaller kayak that doesn't weigh very much, you can go on the lower end of that of 30. Now, if you're in winds or you got moving, waves coming across the water top, or you're in a bigger, heavier kayak, you may want to go up to the higher end of that at 40 feet. But the proper anchor length for kayaking and kayak angling is 3 to 4 times the water depth. So if you don't have a depth finder, right, how do you know how deep the water is? I'm going to show you that. And I'm going to show you how to figure out how much anchor line you actually have out. So first thing we need is an anchor and an anchor line, right? So I'm going to use this anchor here. I'm just got a grappling anchor. There is another video on my page here, on my channel, sorry, that tells you how to properly rig one of these. So I highly suggest you go look at that if you're using a grappling anchor. But what I'm going to use is duct tape. Wow, electrical tape. I carry electrical tape with me in my kayak because it's a great first aid thing and it fixes a lot of different things. It's just a great tool to have if you're a kayaker or a kayak angler. I highly advise carrying some electrical tape in your kayak or on your kayak somewhere. So what I'm going to do is, if you've got a tape measure or whatever, you can do this a little more precisely, okay? But what I'm going to do is measure 5 feet from my 5 feet measurements from the base of my anchor, and then I'm going to put a marker with 1 roll of tape at 5 feet, right? I'm going to have 2 rolls of tape at 10 feet, 3 rolls of tape at 15, 4 rolls of tape at 20, things like that. So that way, if how many ever stripes or wraps of tape there are, I can multiply that by 5 and then see exactly how deep the water is and exactly how much anchor line I have out. So I'm going to get started on the first one. So I'm just going to measure approximately 5 feet. So that's about 5 feet. So for 5 feet, I'm going to do 1 wrap. And most likely you're not going to be anchoring in 5 feet that often, but it's just nice to know where 5 feet starts. So I'm going to take my electrical tape and I'm going to get 1 stripe or 1 wrap, 1 roll, whatever you want to call it, of electrical tape. So right there, from there to there is approximately 5 feet. So now I'm going to go 5 feet again, right? Approximately 5 feet, and I'm going to know that this is 10 feet. So I'm going to put 1 wrap for every 5 feet. So at 10 feet, I want 2 stripes or 2 rolls or 2 markers, whatever you want to call it, that designates 10 feet. So I know that that's 5. I know we're at 10 feet because you just measured 5 feet from the last one. So now there's a nice break in there of color. So I can see very quickly that that's 2 stripes. So that's 10 feet. So now I'm going to go 5 feet again, approximately. So I'm going to do 3 stripes, right? So now I've got 5 feet, put a little space in there, so that you can visually see the difference wherever your anchor line is at. All right, so we know that this is 15 feet, so 1 wrap for every 5 feet. I mean, this one gets 3 wraps. You got it. So there is 15 feet, okay? I'm going to measure 5 feet again, approximately. Now, if you want to use a measuring device of some sort so you kind of exactly how far it is, that's fine. I just do this because it's like, I don't really care if it's 15 feet exactly. I just want to know exactly how, I just want to know how deep the water is, and then I want to know how much anchor line I have out depending on how deep the water is. So it may not be exactly 15, but it's 3 marks deep, okay? And I'm going to get to that in just a moment. So I'm going to mark this at 20, right? And that's 20 divided by 5 is 4. So it's 4 wraps, right? And then a little space so you can see. Oop. Keep dropping that tape. That's not going to work very well. So wrap that around there. So now there's 20 feet marked. Now I could continue to do this, but I'm not going to tie up the video for that long. So there's 20 feet. So at a visual, if I'm anchoring or if I'm trying to see how deep the water is, I know that 4 stripes is 20 feet because every stripe indicates 5 feet. So there's 20. How many is that? 15. You got it, right? 10. 5. You guys got this, right? Easy, easy, easy to do. So how do you know how deep the water is if you don't have a depth finder or a fish finder, okay? Or a chart or whatever, right? There's no way to know exactly how deep the water is. Now, if these are exact measurements, you'll know, pretty close to how deep the water is, right? What I do is I just drop, if I know where I'm going to anchor and I know that I want to drift back, or if I want to know the approximate position where I want to drift, I will go up just a little bit from where I want to end up, right? Or so if I want to drift backwards, I'm going to paddle past where I want to be sitting. If I want to drift forward, I'm going to stop paddling and drop anchor before where I want to get, okay? So how do you know how deep the water is? Well, that's actually pretty simple to figure out because we just measured, right? We just know that this is about 5 feet. That's approximately 10 feet. So drop your anchor right over the side. Now, I don't have it deployed right now, but you can drop your anchor right over the side. And when it stops, right, when it hits the bottom, all right, boom, all right, you pull in your slack, all right, and say it stops, let's say right about there. Okay, so it stops right out here. But now you can see, right, that there's 10 feet here, and it hasn't quite made it to 15. Maybe it stops right in the middle, so it ain't quite 15, but it's past 10. So we'll call that 12 feet, right? So 3 to 4 times. Now you can round down or round up. So I'm going to go ahead and round down to 10 feet because it's a little closer to 10 than it is 15 or whatever, right? So I'm going to go round to 10, and I'm going to go, I want 30 feet of anchor line to get me anchored properly. So I'm going to anchor. I'm going to take this anchor back up, paddle back. I know that I need 30 feet of anchor. So I want to be, if I want to fish at this spot X, I want to back, or I want to get behind or in front of that spot X, right, 30 feet and drop my anchor, okay? So that when that anchor line gets tight at 30 feet, I'm in position X that I want to be in. So if I'm paddling along and I want to stop, say here, right, here's my spot X. If I'm drifting this way or the wind's blowing me this way, then I want to stop 30 feet, stop paddling 30 feet. And that's why I want to drop my anchor. I want to drop my anchor 30 feet away from spot X so that when that anchor line tightens up, right, and at this angle, I'm stopped at spot X. And same for coming back this way. If the wind's blowing me this way, towards me, I want to make sure that I can drop anchor so then when I get the spot, when that 30 feet of anchor line tightens, I'm at spot X, okay? So that's how you're going to know. You can drop it down, measure the depth of the water wherever you're at, say it's 15 feet, say 15 times 3, 45, right, or 4, whatever you're going to multiply it by. Do. So if I want to go 15 times 3, it's 45 feet. So I know that 45 feet, I need 45 feet of anchor. I need to be 45 feet away from the spot I desire to be sitting in, okay? That's spot X. It's not how deep it is where you want to fish, right? It's not how deep it is where it isn't how deep it is at spot X, the spot in which you want to fish. It is how deep it is away from spot X that you need to be, right? So if it's only 5 feet in spot X, that doesn't mean I only need 15 feet of anchor line because by the time I drift, I'm no longer in spot X. So go away from spot X and see where it is. Go 15 feet away and see, is it still 5 feet? Great. You can drop your anchor and be 15 feet of anchor line and be right at spot X. But if it's 10 feet there or 15 feet deep there and you want to drift over to the shallower area, then you're going to have to paddle farther back away from spot X to get your proper anchor line length, okay? So It's an easy way to mark your anchor line. It's a very easy visual. Every mark is 5 feet. Now you can do this however you want. I like 5 feet because it's really easy to see, and I don't have a lot of markers on my line every 1 foot. That just becomes really difficult to do. Now you can do every 10 feet if you want. That's another great measurement to do. I either do 5 feet or 10 feet. I like 5 feet just because it's easy for me to see those marks. And if you want to use different colors, so I have different colors of electrical tape, red, green, blue, whatever you want to use, right? You can use different colors for different lengths of measurement if you want to do that. That's always up to you. I like the 5 foot, and 1 stripe for every 5 feet works extremely well for me. Okay, so that is it on how to, one, know how much anchor line you need. Well, let me rephrase this. That is how you know how much anchor line you need. 3 to 4 times the depth of the water. I gave you a way to mark your anchor line so you know how much anchor line is out, and you can use that same anchor line to tell how deep the water is where you're at. And then I gave you points on how to drift into spot X. So I appreciate everybody watching. You may have some questions on this. It can be a very touchy subject for length of anchor line to kayak. So please, if you have comments or questions, please leave them below. I appreciate everybody watching. Tune in every Tuesday for tips and tricks right here on the Floating Feathers Kayak Fly Fishing channel. I have been Donald. Thank you all for watching. Please subscribe below if you have not. Until next time, tight lines and safe paddles.